Vargas.
And welcome back. We're continuing our conversation with attorney and former Illinois AG, Republican AG nominee, Tom DeVore, who was present at Saturday's Illinois Republican Party State Central Committee meeting. Tom, thanks for joining us here this evening. I want to jump right into this. There was a vote, a motion of no confidence vote that made its way to the floor as the Illinois Republican Party State Central Committee went into an executive session, meaning it's away from the public, a private meeting, and it appeared that it looked like there were enough votes of no confidence to oust Don Tracy as chairman, but there were a couple of surprise votes that kept Don in place. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, again, you mentioned it, Mark. I mean, almost immediately after public comment, Dean White wanted to go into executive session just to discuss Don. And then there was a brief conversation between Dean and the attorney for the state party, Mr. Fogarty, and Dean ended up modifying his motion to just go into executive session. It appears that the counsel, the attorney, didn't want to limit it to just talking about Don, and I think I understand why after the fact. So they went into executive session that early on, and 100% of their meeting was done in executive session. And Robert's Rules does allow entities like this, because, again, it's not a government body necessarily. It allows them to vote in executive session. It's not like a public meeting under the Open Meetings Act, so it wasn't improper. But there was a vote that happened, and I wasn't in the room, of this no confidence where, does the State Central Committee, do they have confidence in Don's abilities to be the leader? And so this was a vote of no confidence. And so if you voted yes, you have no confidence. You voted no, you had confidence. And I didn't know that was happening, but my phone started beeping and blowing up sometime in the afternoon as I was sitting outside. So that this had happened and kind of gave me some very oversight and messages. And the messages I was getting, Mark, let's be clear, wasn't from somebody in the room. It wasn't from one of the State Central Committee persons or any deputies or anything. And I'm not going to say who it was because that wouldn't be appropriate. But it just, somebody in the room was communicating with someone, and it wasn't me. I was getting it third person. And it comes to find out there was, in fact, this vote that got pushed, and why I don't know exactly who voted how. I think they should actually disclose that. If this committee had any, courage, they would have not done that in closed session, and everybody would know who voted how. But it seems to be leaked in some fashion that Larry Smith and Rhonda Belford voted to have confidence in Don, that they don't think Don is doing a bad job. And that would kind of surprise a lot of people to learn that, because they're the co-chairs of this grassroots committee that was created by Don Tracy at the state party level. And I said months ago, and I don't know where you were at on that, Mark, that committee was an absolute facade because nobody cares about the grassroots. Don doesn't, because he's not done anything. But you put Larry Smith and Rhonda Belford as the co-chairs of this committee, who are charged with bringing the grassroots in, right? And then when that endorsement committee gets created by Don, and they don't vote no confidence against Don, they're supporting Don and his ideas of an endorsement committee, is what they're saying, whether they intended to or not. It completely destroys Larry and Rhonda's ability to communicate with the grassroots, and it shows they don't really care about the grassroots, or they would never have protected the guy that's trying to put his thumb on the grassroots and protect people with his endorsement committee. That's how I saw it, and it kind of surprised me. I think a lot of people in the state besides me see that for what it is, Mark.
And Tom, I agreed with you from the very beginning that I thought that this grassroots outreach committee was just to give the appearance that they were supportive of the grassroots, but in reality, anything that would be recommended would be knocked out by Tracy and his senior leadership. So I didn't believe the grassroots, the way they treated the grassroots at the December State Central Committee meeting, I think, was pretty indicative of how they treat the grassroots moving forward, which was with very little respect. Tom, some people accuse me and others and Scott and Illinois Review are just so negative, but we want to rebuild this party. Do you think, Tom, that we can win with the leadership that we have in place as Republicans moving forward in future elections?
There's zero chance of winning, Mark. We have zero. And I'm going to those people that say that you guys are so negative, here's what they're really saying is we know all of this stuff that Mark and Scott and Illinois Review are saying is true, right? I mean, I don't watch everything. I'm not here to say the Illinois Review makes 100%. I don't know, Mark. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the message that you're trying to convey, the overall message in the articles, I understand what the messages you're conveying, and I know them to be the case. And what these, the Don Tracys of the world don't like, and I know they don't like it, is because it's telling people what's going on behind the scenes, and they don't want that to be known. They think that it shouldn't be publicly disclosed, and we ought to all go about it like little mice in the background trying to solve these issues outside the public eye. It's not my style. You know me, throw it all out there and talk about it. But that's why they're frustrated, because it's not the fact that what you're saying is absolute false, because I don't think I've ever seen them publish anything with information or data that disputes it. If they have, I'd like to see it. I don't know that I have. They just don't like the fact that you're talking about it because, again, they like for all of these things to be done in closed rooms, kind of sadly, kind of like they did at their meeting that they had yesterday. They did it in a closed room. They didn't want the people to see. And if I was on, in that committee or had anything to do with it, I'd be going open the door, let people in. I'm going to vote the way I'm going to vote. And if they're going to ask me why, I'll explain it to them. I don't like backdoor stuff, Mark, and that's what these guys are all about.
I don't like that either. Tom, my final question to you is to the everyday grassroots Republican who are the heart and soul and backbone of the Illinois Republican Party. They've been discouraged. We've had a tough primary election, general election. We had a tough April 4th election. What's your message to our fellow grassroots conservatives that are just feeling down and out and beaten up right now?
I don't want to get discouraged, but I certainly understand what they're saying. Change is never easy. And the last 3 years with what we've had with COVID mandates, et cetera, it's re-energized people, and I'm thankful for that. So when it re-energizes people, they're going to start seeing, Republicans have been losing elections for decades in Illinois for a reason. And when, we had success in the governor's race with Mr. Ronner, it wasn't because of our stellar infrastructure as Republicans. It was because he was rich and he used his money to overcome that. We don't have a structure at a state level in Illinois. We're never going to have that structure that it's going to take to win election until we have new leadership. It's that clear, and anything that the grassroots wants to do between now and we got to get something done soon is to get a leadership change and hold that leadership accountable for progress. We've got some really good ideas, Mark. You know some of them, and we've been working on a lot of things, but we're never going to get it done with the current administration. That's reality, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. And I was a little caught off guard that Rhonda Belford, and again, I like Rhonda. Larry, I like Larry. I was really surprised to learn that they got in the way. They need to get on board because this is going to change one way or another, and they need to be a part of it, or they just need to get out of the way.
Be a part of it or get out of the way. Tom DeVore, thanks so much for giving us some insight from the inside from Saturday State Central Committee meeting.
Yes, sir.
Hope to have you back on soon. God bless you, my friend.